All right, in this video, we are going to talk about another common array task, and that is counting array elements. Okay, so the directions say write a program that declares and initializes an array of doubles, prompt the user to enter a number. It says the program should print the number of elements in the array that are strictly greater than the number entered by the user. Okay, all right. All right, so public class count array, I'll call it. And public static void main string args. All right, we need to declare and initialize an array of doubles. Alright, so it doesn't specify how long, so alright, so that should be good. Alright, prompt the user to enter a number. Alright, so I'm just going to use scanner. To create a scanner object. Prompt the user, enter a number, and then actually get the number itself. Okay, so the number that the user types in will be held in this variable input. All right, and now what we'll need to do is to go through this array and count up how many numbers are greater than the number that the user typed in. Okay, so we're going to count these things up. So we're going to initialize a variable called int, and that will hold the number of doubles in here that are greater than what the user typed in. All right, so we're going to initialize that to 0, and then we're going to set up that standard loop to go over the indices, right, of the array. All right, so again, this is exactly the same for loop that we've used in all the previous examples. If that looks foreign to you, then you should probably go back and look at the previous examples in array part 1 and array part 2. Okay. All right, and so now then what we will do here is we need to compare, right, each one of these numbers in the array numbers to the number that the user typed in, right? And we want, it says the program should print the number of elements in the array that are strictly greater, right, than the number entered by the user. All right, so if I'm going to have an if statement, right, and I'm going to take a look at numbers I and see if it's greater than the user typed in, right? So remember, this I is going to go through all of the indices, right, one by one, and then I can pull out the actual number, the actual element, right, with this expression, numbers I, right? So the first time through this loop body, I is going to be 0, right? So it will be number 0. Number 0 refers to the element in the array numbers at index 0. So it will refer to 2.3, right? And then I'll see, okay, is 2.3 greater than the number that the user typed in, or is it not? Okay. And then after this loop body gets done, then I will increase to 1. So this will be numbers I. And so this will compare the next number, right? Numbers 1, right, represents this 66.2 right here, and it will check to see if that's bigger, okay, and so on and so forth. All right, so now the question is, what do you want to do if the number is bigger than the number that the user typed in? Well, all we really want to do is increase this variable count by 1, right? So just count plus plus. Okay, so increase the count by 1 if it's true that the number in the array is bigger than the number that the user typed in. All right, and then what do we want to do otherwise? Well, nothing, right? If the number is not bigger, then we just move along. So that's really all we need to do. All right, so this loop will go through and take that count, right? And then we just display some message. There are blank numbers in the array greater than whatever number that the user typed in. And so count and input. All right, so let's try that and give it a shot. The first number that I am going to test out is I'm going to enter 0, right? And if I enter 0, all of these numbers are bigger than 0, right? So I should get 5 in that case. Okay. All right, next I'll pick, let's say 10, right? So when I type in a 10, I should get 1, 2. All right, if I type in 300, I should get 0, right? All right, so you see that's working pretty well. Let's just run through it very quickly with Canvas, and you can kind of see how it works. And let's do that. Okay. All right, so so there's our array. I'm going to type in, let's see. I'm going to type in 8.5. All right. So there's 8.5. All right, the variable count gets set up, right? And then the loop is going to start. All right, so I come to this if statement. Right now, I is 0, right? So this is going to be if number 0 is greater than input. Well, number 0 is 2.3. Is that bigger than input? Nope. So this statement is false. So you're going to see it's going to skip right past all of that stuff. So it dropped down here. The loop body is end, right? There's no more statements in there. So it goes back up to this updater. It's going to update this to a 1, right? And then it's going to check, is 1 less than the length of numbers? And it is, right? Because the length is 5 and 1 is less than 5. So you'll see that updated to 1, and then it drops down here. Okay. All right, so now we're back here at the if statement, right? So it's numbers 1, right? Because I is equal to 1, greater than input. So numbers 1, right, refers to this 66.2, right? That's the element of numbers at index 1 at 66.2, right? Is that greater than input? And the answer is yes, right? So that's true. So that means that the body of the if statement is going to get triggered, right? So it's going to drop to this statement, and so this just increases the count by 1, right? All right, that's it for all the statements in the for loop. So it goes back up here to the updater, right? The updater will increase this to 2, and it will check, is 2 less than the length of numbers? And the answer is true. So it falls back down here to this if statement. You can see I is now 2. So this will be numbers 2 is greater than input. So numbers 2 is 8.2, which is not greater than 8.5. So you're going to see this skip, right? And since that's all of the statements in the loop body, it's going to bounce back here to the updater and check the condition again. You see that's now 3. So numbers 3, is that greater than input? Well, numbers 3 is 9.012, and so that is greater than input. So it will fall to this, execute the body of the if statement there, which increases the count by 1. All right, and then it just cycles all the way through, checks every single one. And once it's done with the loop, then it falls to the next statement, which just prints the statement that we want printed to the user. All right, and that is it.